forward, and we will begin. Good afternoon and welcome to Marlene Meyerson, JCC Manhattan, and the Whole Being Institute Lunch and Learn program. Today, we are going to be asking the question about why. Why boost resilience? Our Brooklyn success with Laura Garrison, Brook. Join us to learn about what resilience is and what it isn't to benefit yourself and your loved ones. Laura Garrison, Brook, partner to CUNY's Medgar Evers College, will share how her program In Pursuit of Purpose helped a group of Brooklyn students this spring semester. At the peak of COVID-19, these students reported that their anxiety levels had gone down, and they credited the positive psychology tools they learned with why. Laura will share how purpose boosts resilience, where purpose lives, some simple tools you can use to increase life satisfaction, and more. Whether you want to benefit a young person that you love or leverage this knowledge for yourself, you will find value in these 60 minutes. A little bit about Laura. Laura Garrison Brook is the founder and CEO of Discovering My Purpose, a charitable organization focused on helping at-promise youth live happier, more meaningful lives. She provides her online positive psychology program for free to teen and mentor matches. Her program helps address the anger, anxiety, and depression that often undermine the success of well-being of youth by connecting them to a stronger understanding of their strength and their authentic self. Welcome to the call, Laura. It is a pleasure to have you here. How do you know the Whole Being Institute? Let's just find that out really quick.
I'm a SIP grad. I'm going to talk about it in the presentation. I'm so grateful, so incredibly grateful for being here. And
let's get started because I know.
Yes, I know. I'm so sorry. I was saying to Caroline, I have got this down to a science, y'all. We're going to cover a lot of ground. My apologies, Caroline. But the reason I advanced the slide is I wanted to thank the JCC Manhattan. I wanted to thank my partners at Medgar Evers College. Thank you so much for those of you who are joining in, and thank you for allowing me to partner with you. And thank you to Megan at the Whole Being Institute for thinking of me to share this with you also, because it's so fun. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're here. And thanks to all of you for joining in this gathering. And this is how we're going to spend our time together. We're going to, as Caroline just mentioned, we're going to talk about what resilience is and what it's not, challenges our students are facing these days, recent results from Medgar Evers College. And again, that's a CUNY school in Brooklyn, New York that I've been working with. How purpose boosts resilience and resilience tools you can immediately benefit from. Okay, so here I am. This is Discovering My Purpose. Caroline's already given a very nice intro to me because she's such a pro. I did graduate from the Certificate in Positive Psychology in 2016, so I'm part of the Whole Being Institute family. And when I took SIP, it literally changed my life. My husband and son are on the call, and if they want to jump in the chat space, you can say, yeah, it changed her life. I quit my job. I started discovering my purpose. It literally took me in a totally different direction. So we're going to dive right in. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, what is resilience? And I know that it's crazy times right now. So my invitation to you is we're going to take just a few moments to close our eyes. And I want you to breathe into the belly and think of resilience. So just nice big belly breaths, just allow yourself to settle right here. If you're, I think we're all in a place where things are feeling pretty jangly right now with what's going on in the world. So just allow yourself to settle. And as you settle, I invite you to think of resilience. And ask yourself, when you think of resilience, how do you feel? Okay, breathe into that awareness. Again, thinking of resilience. What rises up inside of you? All right. And then as you're ready, open your eyes. And I'm going to keep prompting you to throw some ideas into that chat space and share what was your experience as you were thinking of resilience. please share in the chat space. And I ask you to don't filter your responses, because I've done this with a few people and they've kind of looked at me like, do you really want to hear what I have to say? And it's like, yeah, tell me what you have to say. How does resilience feel to you? And I actually, with all of my multiple monitors, I don't have the ability to look at the chat space right now. So I'm going to throw out a few things that I've heard, okay? I've heard that you might feel pressured. You might feel guilty when you think of resilience. You might feel bad. You might feel angry. You might feel tired, and you might feel like you are falling short, okay? Resilience, for such a positive word, it's got a lot of baggage, doesn't it? So we're going to talk about that more. And just this morning, this is a slide I just added a couple hours ago. I was on Facebook and I saw an ad for this bracelet. It was over in the right-hand column. And it made me wonder, is this part of our struggle with resilience? Does it make me feel like maybe I'm not enough? And I don't mean to say, some of you in the chat space, you might be putting some positive things in there. And we love that. I don't mean to push you in a negative direction if that's not authentically what you're feeling. And if you are feeling good, feelings about resilience, we need to learn from you. And I would really love for you to share, what fuels your resilience. Because it sounds like you've got some of this stuff already figured out. So it's awesome that you're still here. We want to learn from you. And speaking of learning from you, I would love it if you could have a robust conversation in the chat space. Thank you so much to all of my positive psychology and PosEd friends who've shown up for this gathering. There's a lot of smart people in the room who can enrich this conversation. So here's how to access your chat space if you're not familiar with that, if you're not a big Zoom user. And if you can't see the black meeting control bar here, just click on your screen and it should pop up. So the chat's there in the middle. Alrighty. My dad is here on the, yes, Dad, what?
You said you can't see the chat space.
It's all good. It's all good. All right. My dad is in IT. So my IT support just popped in saying, you can't see the chat space. He was going to come in and help me fix it. So gotta love him. So I recently read a story that talked about colleges that were coaching students in resilience tools. And this was the student's response. And I've got some thoughts on why. So let's assume, I think it's a fair assumption, that these students were already feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And if their perception was that the tools being provided about resilience were about toughing it out or bouncing back, that's probably just not going to play well. So as human beings, in an effort to understand something, we try to observe it, right? That's just natural. So when we do this, we can be led to believe that resilience lies in the things that we do, okay? Because that's what we can see, that's what we can observe. But resilience, like our perception could be, resilience means we keep juggling those balls, we keep getting stuff done, we keep going, all right? And a common definition, if you were to throw your, kind of understanding of what resilience is in the chat space, you very well might say that resilience means bouncing back quickly, bouncing back easily, with a smile on your face, maybe. And that's just not realistic. We're real people. I mean, let's keep this real, okay? So it is not juggling to keep all the balls in the air. That is not what resilience is. And resilience is not bouncing back quickly and easily. And when resilience feels like an enormous should that is just laying across your shoulders, like we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders, this is what we get, right? We should stop putting that pressure on top of ourselves. So, and Caroline, if I could ask you, the mentions in the chat around resilience, was it a kind of mixed bag, or was there
It was a kind of mixed bag, absolutely.
Okay.
Some people are saying, if you want, relief, bouncing back, gratitude, hope, and strength, empowered, never giving up, not easy to access, anxiety, exhaustion, power, flexibility. I don't have it, hope and strength, power. It is true. And then to the other one about what is, what do I think of when I think of resilience? I think resilience and saying, pick myself up, dust myself off, and start all over again and feel better. Empowered. Someone else said, what fuels your resistance? And people have said, sharing positive remarks, stick-to-itiveness, rise in spite of being weighted down. I've always been persistent with a strong drive. The willingness to fail. Someone said, I feel resilient because I have learned and practiced resilient skills. I have a wonderful support group.
Great.
Yeah. And then finally, my first fear, first I feel fear, then I open my toolbox and look for my strengths, optimism, hope, and gratitude.
Oh, I love all those. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you. I hope that you continue to chime into the chat, because I'll definitely be reading it after the fact. And I love hearing your voices, and I love you having dialogue amongst you, because there's obviously a lot of knowledge in this shared group for us to learn from. So some of us, it's a mixed bag, like Caroline said. Some had some pretty charged feelings around resilience. And again, for those of you who didn't, that's brilliant, and we're glad that you're here. But for many of us, the perceived message is that we need to keep going. I heard some of you saying that. And to be really resilient, there might be this feeling that we need to make it look easy. And as part of this presentation, I was looking up pictures for resilience, and here are some of the ones I found. All right. This is not resilience. No, no, no. This is not resilience. It's very common for us to confuse perseverance with resilience. Okay. Keep going, like tough it out, keep moving forward. That's not resilience, right? So, and when we're constantly given these messages, when we're feeling really overwhelmed, that we've got to suck it up, we've got to bounce back, we've got to keep going, it doesn't feel good. It's normal, it's natural, because it might not feel authentic. It might not feel like where you truly are. All right. So we've talked about what resilience isn't. It isn't about go, 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 push, push, push. Here is what it is, okay? True resilience is an inside job. It's about responding authentically in a way that respects your own needs and your own emotions. This is a definition of resilience that's more grounded in reality. And this is from the American Psychological Association, and they say resilience is about adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, threats, tragedy, or even significant sources of stress. And boy, we've got that in spades right now, don't we? Adapting well, not adapting easily. So, what does adapting well look like to you? I love this picture of this chameleon, because he's not blending in at all, right? We always think about the chameleon, they blend in. So here he is rocking his authentic colors for all the world to see. We need to be more like this chameleon. We each need to recognize that our adapting well might look very different for you than it does for me. And maybe your adapting well is even more awesome and you look like this, okay? At the heart of it, we need to give ourselves permission to figure out what our version of resilience looks like, so that we're living from that place of authenticity that feeds us and fuels us. And towards the end of our time together, I'm going to share some powerful tools and mindsets that are going to help. Okay? All right, so let's shift gears for a little bit and talk about how our young people are struggling. This is going to be like almost 3 presentations in one. So even if you don't have a high schooler or a college student in your family, I bet there are a lot of things that we talk about that are going to resonate with you as well. So hang with us. We're going to circle back around to those resilience tools for all of us in just a little bit. Once kids hit their junior or senior year of high school, what would you guess the question that they hear most from adults in their lives is? Where do you want to go to college? Right? And here is what I think the question should be. Why do you want to go to college? And I love this quote. Okay, an educator named Paul Golbensky has a great quote to share, which is, "We do career exploration at the highest dollar amount possible. It's called university." Okay, so a lot of kids get to school and they honestly aren't sure, why they're there. Here's another quote to share from Professor Bill Damon, and he says that, and I think we all know that our kids have been struggling. And Professor Bill Damon, he's the director of Stanford Center on Adolescence, and he shares, for far too many young people today, apathy and anxiety have become the dormant moods, and disengagement or even cynicism has replaced the natural hopefulness of youth. Okay, now, I don't know about you, but when I hear that, and I'm a mom of two great guys, one who's still in elementary school and one who's going to turn 29 in a couple of days. And when I hear that quote, it makes me feel like this, okay? This anxiety that our kids are feeling, where is it coming from? Here's some of my opinions. We're asking our high school students to do more and more and more. AP classes, extracurriculars, getting good grades, and all of this energy has to come from somewhere. And if they have no sense of why they're working on or what they're working towards, it's going to take a toll. So when I said they aren't sure what they're working towards, you might have had this thought. Sure they do. They're working hard to get into college. So that circles back around to the challenge we talked about earlier. If our focus is on where they go to college, not why, you run a risk of challenges. Going to a good college is a goal. It's not a purpose. And I'm sure you've heard them as well. I know I've heard them, that all these stories about these high achieving kids who work and work and work to get into a good school. And then when they get there, they crash, okay? All my Pause Ed friends on the chat space, if you could chime in with some of your thoughts on this, I'd love to hear your voices as well. So why do you think that happens? Getting into school has always been their driving ambition, right? That's always kind of served as their North Star. And once they get into that good school, they lose direction because they aren't sure what's next. So this is a brilliant book. It's called Answering Why, and it's focused on helping the younger generations unleash their passion, purpose, and performance. It just came out, might have come out in 2019. If not, it came out in 2018. And author Mark Perna talks about getting into college as if it's the 100-meter dash, in the Olympics. These students have trained for years and years for this moment, and with the crack of the gun, they are off and running as fast as they can to cross the finish line, okay? And a lot of runners start to slow gradually to maybe walk down the track, but as some of them give it everything they have just to cross the finish line, and then they crumple into a heap on the ground, completely spent. So what author Perna says is that young people approach getting into college the same way. And once they cross that finish line, they stop cold because they think they have accomplished their goal, okay? They haven't trained for what comes next. And that leaves these students in a really vulnerable place. All right. So what's the impact? The American College Health Association runs a big research effort gathering data from nearly 20,000 students at 44 schools. So this is a lot of data that's going to underlie these numbers. It's called the Fall 2018 National College Health Assessment. All right, y'all, brace yourself, okay? Because the numbers I'm about to share with you are grim. So in 2018, they shared that 63% of college students in the US felt overwhelming anxiety in the past year, okay? And then 23% reported being diagnosed or treated by a mental health professional for anxiety in the previous year. So think about that for a second. This data is pre-COVID, okay? Nearly 2/3 of our college students reported a sense of overwhelming anxiety, and nearly a quarter had been diagnosed or treated for anxiety in the previous year. So this anxiety, it takes a huge toll on our college students. So if you had to guess what the 4-year graduation rate is for public schools on average across the country, what would you guess it is? Think about that for a second. Okay, this is coming from the US Department of Education stats. So this is like really blanketing the entire country. So the answer is that at public schools, 4-year graduation rates is 33%. These are all schools across the whole country, okay, public school. And if you bump that out to 6 years, giving the students 6 years to graduate, their graduation rate within 6 years is 57.6%, okay? Private schools, the numbers go up some. 4-year grad rate is a little bit over half, roughly 53%, and 6-year graduation rate is 65%, okay? So these kids going to private schools, spending as much as 6 years, 1/3 of them still leave not having their degree. All right, so let's return to the why of students, why students want to go to college. All right, so if you're in a place where you're having, someone who is gearing up for college and you're having this conversation and you say, why do you want to go to college? You might get answers that look like this, right? And I'm afraid that's not the kind of motivation that we need to plug into. And why is that? All right, well, let's talk a little bit. And this is something I learned straight out of the certificate in positive psychology. So thank you so much, Holbein Institute. It's because of something called the principle of hedonic adaptation. Doesn't that sound cool? And what it means is that when we get that new phone or we get that new car, we absolutely, for a short period of time, get a boost in happiness. No doubt about it. But really quickly, we get used to having it and our happiness level goes back down to what it was beforehand. And studies have found that people who report the greatest interest in attaining money, fame, or beauty are consistently found to be less happy and even less healthy than those who pursue less materialistic goals. So these stats here in the picture, I took them out of my notes for some reason, but they found that in industrialized nations that wealth in the last 50 years has tripled, but happiness levels have remained flat. So there's some really good proof of that concept right there. Okay, so for those of you who are in the psychology world, like me, you know this very well, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you're unfamiliar with it, the reality is that we always start from the bottom up. Okay, our focus is always from the bottom up. First, we address basic needs, and then psychological needs, and then self-fulfillment needs at the top, okay? And studies have found that once our basic needs for food, safety, and shelter are met, more stuff does not make us happier, all right? And if you want to dig more, if you're like a science nerd like I am, and you want to dig more into why that is, you can read Tim Kasser's The High Price of Materialism, and he explains that in more detail. I love this. This is another cartoon that was that I harvested out of the certificate in positive psychology. And it helps us picture this tension, right? Most of us have felt this way at times. Happiness is always promised to be just around the corner if we keep working and earning and buying and going and probably dieting. I mean, we just have to keep going, right? And I think that's why some of our kids are disengaging. We keep telling them Happiness is just around the corner, and they don't buy it. So far, we've been talking about our generic challenges. Let's get more specific, because I do want to spend some time talking about our work with Medgar Evers. So in early 2019, I was very, very lucky to make the acquaintance of Dr. Joanne Roll. She's the dean of the business school at Medgar Evers College, which is, again, a CUNY school in Brooklyn, New York. And Dean Roll reached out to me because she was witnessing the challenges her students were having, and she was searching for a solution. And I'm not sure if Dean Roll is with us on the call. She said that she was going to try to make it, but she's obviously got a lot on her plate right now. So this is what Dean Roll had to say. She said, I've had individual conversations with students who are near graduation, but they're still uncertain about what they want to do professionally. And I've tracked our retention rate, since this is tied to the success and well-being of both our students and our school as a whole. And this is the figures specific to Medgar Evers. 58% of students who started in 2017 returned in 2018. So they've got a pretty significant sophomore melt that happens. And even more challenging for Medgar Evers, only 13% of students who started their studies in 2012 have graduated with their four-year degree. So that's obviously well below the stats that we were seeing from the U.S. Department of Education. So Dean Roll felt these are critical needs to address, and she felt that connecting students to a clearer sense of purpose was a great way to boost student success and graduation rates, which is why she reached out to me. So for students who are uncertain about their path forward, this is for Medgar Evers students and others, this is the question we need to ask them. What mark do you want to make on the world? And if you're a parent or a grandparent taking this advice, this is probably the response you're going to get at first. And that's okay. Studies have shown that between 75 and 80% of people, and that's kids and adults, don't know what their purpose is. All right? So as you can tell from the name of our organization, Discovering My Purpose, purpose has a special place in our hearts, and we believe that purpose is transformational. And let's talk about why. So there have been dozens and dozens of studies on the power of purpose. So how is a purposeful life better? I mean, what is this focus that I have on our why? So purpose has even more benefits than what you'll see here, but these are some of the really great ones that I've called out. So people have been shown to be happier, healthier, less anxious and depressed, have less substance abuse problems, more successful, and more fulfilled. Okay, and some great stuff there. So this talk is about resilience. How do resilience and purpose tie together? Here's wisdom from, again, Stanford professor Bill Damon, who says that purpose endows a person with joy in good times and resilience in hard times. And this holds true all throughout life. So why is that? All right, so we'll talk briefly about intrinsic motivation. And that's when your motivation to do something comes from inside of yourself. And when it comes to staying fueled up, we respond to extrinsic and intrinsic motivation very, very differently. And extrinsic motivation is the stuff like getting good grades, getting paid for the work you do, and it can run you down, especially if you keep getting the same praise over and over again. With that same praise, like that paycheck maybe, you build up a tolerance to it. You just kind of expect it. And it doesn't provide the same level of motivation. When you're fueled by extrinsic motivation, there's often a need for more and more self-discipline, since you might not want to do what you need to do. And this can be tiring. all right? And intrinsic motivation is like the equivalent of plugging into the force. As long as you love doing something, you'll keep wanting to do it. The energy comes from inside of you. All right. So this flow chart here kind of gives you a sense of how things tie together. So that means that your purpose, doing something you love, which is there upper left, flows into the intrinsic motivation, and it becomes a big strategic advantage for you. Chances are that you're going to work harder, you'll have better performance, you'll also be more persistent, and you'll be less likely to give up in the face of adversity. And these things add up to a greater chance of success. And connecting the dots, you can also see how intrinsic motivation can fuel resilience. All right. So what would y'all say purpose is? If you want to kind of throw your thoughts into the chat space, I'd love to have them there. What's your opinion? So the official definition, according to psychologists and sociologists, is that purpose has 4 key things in it. There's a long-term commitment to it. It doesn't change day by day. It's tied to goals that you work towards. It means a lot to you. You love working on it, whatever it might be, and it makes the world a better place. Okay, so that's what it is. So we have a certain sense of what purpose is. Long-ranging commitment to action means a lot to us and benefits the world. So how do we find it? So I'll tell you where to look. It's in the overlap of what we're good at, what we love to do, and what the world needs. That's where your purpose lives. So we might be back to this, right? Especially for those of us who are just starting off in life. You might be like, but I don't know what I'm good at, and I'm not sure what I love to do yet, and I have no idea what the world needs. So as I mentioned earlier, Discovering My Purpose, we're a nonprofit organization, and we're focused on helping youth live happier, more meaningful lives. And our charitable focus is providing the program for free to at-risk teens. And the way we provide this for free is we also sell this online program. And what we say to everyone who goes through the program, teens for sure, is we believe that everyone has a purpose that lives within them. And some just take a little bit more time to uncover. So whether you or whether your kids find your purpose right away, or if it takes a while, we tell people not to stress. Either way, it's a journey. Life is a journey. Life is long. So when starting on the path to purpose, here is the invitation. Ask yourself, or ask your loved ones who are figuring things out, what mark do you want to make on the world? And just starting this conversation is so powerful. If you know what your own purpose is, then I would encourage you to share that with others. Share that with the young people in your lives. Do not assume that they know what it is already. And if you don't know what it is, and you have young people who are still figuring things out as well, maybe you decided to explore this together. It's a really sweet path to walk with your family. Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And when we figure out who we are and what we're here to do, it is so grounding for us emotionally. For our youth, this means that they're more likely to do better in school, and they're more likely to thrive. So with that as a segue, let's get back to talking about our recent class at Medgar Evers. And this is what Dean Roll shared. She said, in my opinion, there are 2 critical elements that support student retention and persistence to graduation. There are students' understanding of why they are in school, i.e. how education supports the pursuit of their life purpose, and a strong dose of resilience. And Dean Roll was kind enough to say that In Pursuit of Purpose is tailor-made to help with both of these things. So some quick background on In Pursuit of Purpose. Oh, Caroline has a question. Yeah.
Dean Roll is on the call.
She is. Yay. Yay, Dean Roll. We're so happy you're here. All right, so some quick background on In Pursuit of Purpose. In the past 12 months, we've taught 7 classes at Medgar Evers. That's Dean Roll over there all the way on the right in the white sweater. This was one of our first classes that we taught. The class I'm going to talk about was an online class, so unfortunately I don't have any pictures of those students. So this is a picture that I have to share. And a bit of background on what the students experienced. In Pursuit of Purpose is, we taught the class 5 times in person and 2 online. And the class we're going to be speaking about started mid-January and it wrapped up in April. And the class was embedded in an organizational behavior course. So more background on on In Pursuit of Purpose. It is literally the foundation is positive psychology tools and resources. And this is thanks to Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar and the Whole Being Institute. I've told you all a couple times about how I went through the certificate in positive psychology, which is brilliant. In Pursuit of Purpose is a layered experience. It's made up of 5 modules and it takes roughly 8 hours to complete. And I'm going to go through really, really quickly what the students experienced. I'm going to talk about this module the most, and then we'll buzz through the others. So we start off with a bonus module, and Caroline, this is about the brain. Caroline is like me. She's a brain nerd. I know it. Oh my gosh, it's fascinating, isn't it? So we start off with this bonus module, which is all about how we can rewire our brains so that we can break negative thinking and shift our perspective. And then the next 4 modules could stand on their own. But I love, love, love this bonus module. I'm going to tell you why. It's so powerful, especially for youth who have experienced trauma. And the reason that is that often these vulnerable youth can have a victim mentality. What they think is bad stuff just happens to me. I make poor decisions. This is just the way things are. And this module, which again is the very first thing that they experience, it gives them a better understanding of how their brains work and how they can change them going forward so that they can make better decisions. So right from the beginning, we crack open their assumptions and show them how to embrace their potential. Okay? And then module 1 is about getting to know yourself. Module 2 is about understanding our strengths and building self-confidence. And then in module 3, we dream big. This is where we connect to our purpose. And then in the final module, module 4, is about putting plans in place to help live our authentic lives. Alrighty, so back to Medgar Evers, the specific program that they experienced, now that you have a certain sense of what they experienced, the outline of it, okay? So that spring semester class that we just wrapped up, again, we partnered with Professor Ayana Kone, who hopefully is also on the call. Shout out to Professor Kone. And in partnership with Professor Kone, we embedded this into that organizational behavior class that I mentioned. Oh, she raised her hand. Yay, she's here. So this organizational behavior class had 23 students, and of those 23 students, we had 14 complete all of our requirements in order to effectively have them be part of the data set that we were looking at their stats. And those requirements were that they took a pre and a post-program emotional baseline assessment, they did a strength survey, they watched all the videos, and they completed the required exercises. So it was pretty rigorous, and they're obviously doing all of this during these crazy times. And so to give you a sense of what the results are, we're first going to talk about the emotional baseline survey comparison, and then testimonials from staff and some testimonials from students. So we measured their emotional baselines, and think about what's going on, okay? In January, we did the pre-assessment, okay? This is pre-COVID, obviously, as you can see from this graph. And when you're looking at this graph, pay attention to the orange stuff, because the orange stuff are the cases, the yellow stuff are tests, okay? So you see that there's that big spike, you know, kind of coming up before April 1, and then kind of a couple weeks after April 1 going down. And I just pulled these stats up yesterday. So from our standpoint, to show the impact of the class, we want to see that their emotional outcomes have improved. So they've taken their emotional baseline before COVID, and then we're going to measure them again. And most of the students went through their measurements in late March and early April. And you're looking at these stats, right? I mean, the world is on fire in New York City at this time, right in the thick of things. And Professor Kone she's with me, and she can throw into the chat space. She can be my witness. As I was waiting for the results to come in, I was feeling like this. Okay. I mean, I'm literally like hunched down, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a train wreck. So I was scared. I was braced for the worst. And then the results came in and I was like this. I was just like, unbelievable. So, and just right now, I will say to you that I have had students make fun of me saying, you know, you use a lot of cat memes in your classes, right? And I'm kind of like, hey, if you're laughing while you're learning, that's okay. And if you're laughing at me, I'm all right with that too. So the students take the pre and post-program emotional baseline surveys, and these use classical psychological assessments to measure them. Like the most classical, one there is for anger. So this is what we measure. We measure anger, anxiety, depression, grit, life satisfaction, self-esteem, and a few other things. Those are the really big ones. And here are our results, all right? Anger went down about 4%. Anxiety went down 30%, which is shocking. Depression did go up. That was the one outcome that we have that doesn't get the happy little green highlight. Grit went up a bit, about 3%. Life satisfaction went up over 11%. And self-esteem went up marginally. So we were really, really shocked with these results. Extremely happy, extremely pleased, but definitely tremendously surprised. And Professor Kone shared with me after what she observed. And she shared, and Professor Kone teaches a total of 5 classes. This past semester, she was teaching a total of 5 classes at Medgar Evers. And Professor Kone, if you would like to chat, throw anything else in the chat space, I would love to have you chime in as well. So she shared, during this semester, I noticed a marked difference between the students who had experienced In Pursuit of Purpose compared to my students who had not. She said the students who had experienced In Pursuit of Purpose had an air of hope and positivity. They were also more focused on self-care, which is such an important part of resilience. So thank you so much for those words. And some student feedback, and this is Professor Kone, as part of the wrap-up for the class, asked students to provide feedback, and I literally have pages of testimonials that they shared. And in this anonymous feedback, they said that the students felt like they had greater ownership over their life, such as learning to help manage stress, build constructive habits, and develop greater persistence in chasing their dreams. And out of the pages we received, here's feedback that I've harvested just from 3 students, just to keep it quick. One student shared, with all my free time due to these challenging times, In Pursuit of Purpose has become a daily practice for me. And this particular student shared that they're also passing along what they learned to family and friends. Another student said, I've been able to just sit without any distractions and connect with myself in ways that work for me, which is writing down my thoughts in my journal and meditating. And then the last piece of student feedback is they went on to say that they changed words in their inner dialogue, which helped them deal with these difficult circumstances. And they said, not using words can't and won't. And the student said, changing those words in my vocabulary really helps me during this challenging time because I'm getting a lot of things done that I said I can't do. All right. And our last piece of feedback from Medgar Evers is Dr. Roll says that, and this is regarding the whole year, because like I said, we taught the class 7 times over the past 12 months. She said, all student feedback on the class has been tremendously positive. Students have stated their appreciation and gratitude for the opportunity to think more mindfully about who they are and and where they're going. So who they are and where they're going, which translates to why they're going to college, right? So powerful. So if you have any questions about Medgar Evers and the work that we did there, let's see here. All right. We will take those at the end of our time together because I've got some more ground to cover before we wrap up. So hopefully Professor Kone and Dr. Rule can hang out with us until the end of the class. So our agenda, we've covered the first 4 items. Now we're going to dig into resilience tools you can immediately benefit from. Okay. And again, just a reminder, resilience is about adapting well, right? Adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, threats, tragedy, or stress. Okay. So if there's one thing I would love for you to take away from our time together, it's resilience is not about doing. Not about doing. Please remember that. This little kitty here, see this little kitty, happy kitty in your face, in your mind? And remember, resilience is a state of being. It's a state of being. It's an inside job. And only you can determine what adapting well looks like for you. So with that said, I'm not going to leave you hanging. I've got some ideas to share. Here's where the rubber meets the road, right? All right. Here's some tools to share that will help. So when I think about resilience, I often picture us as surfers. Resilience is about learning how to ride the waves of life. And I got to tell you, I took one surf lesson and I was a hot mess. So it's a skill, right? It's a skill that we learn with time. Here's the lovely Tal Ben-Shahar, whom we've talked about. I studied with him for the certificate in positive psychology. And as we were studying with Tal, he often counseled us that we need to give ourselves permission to be human. And in light of this, we need to remember that resilience at times might look like 2 steps forward and then 1 step back during these times of challenge. And that's okay. That's okay. Day by day, moment by moment, we show up and we do our best. Give yourself permission. Okay, to just do your best. And every morning is a chance to begin again. Okay, and here's the great news. As we develop these resiliency skills, it might not be easy, but it will get easier as you build out your toolbox. Okay, so I'm going to provide you with 4 steps to boost your resilience. And while adapting well is unique to each of us, I hope that you'll find value in these things that I share. We're going to talk about expectations, appreciating the good, self-care, and an emotional barometer, and then I'll have a bonus as well. Okay. So we need to examine our shoulds and see if they are serving us in this time and place. Are they realistic? When there's something on our plate to do and we feel like this, we need to stop and check in. Is this truly mission critical? Or could this be done differently? Could it be done by someone else? Or could we stop doing it? Okay? Could we let go and come to recognize that adapting well might mean doing less? Again, give yourself permission to be human. Another great Tal quote, okay? Tal says, when you appreciate the good appreciates. And I happen to have proof, actual proof that this is true. So here's a story to share. So as I mentioned, as part of our charitable focus, we teach our program to at-risk youth. And the picture that you see here is of 2 of the foster girls that I taught recently. So not so recently, it was obviously pre-COVID because I was there in person with them. So after the program was over, as I was looking over the results, one thing in particular really, really jumped out to me. Over the course of the 6 weeks that we spent together, their life satisfaction score nearly doubled. Okay? Why? Well, at the beginning of every class, I asked them a simple question. What was the best part of your week? And the first time I asked them that, I had just walked into the group foster home and I was still setting up my computer and projector. And they looked at me as if I had two heads. And no one, that first time I asked the question, I got zero answers. No one had an answer for me. And the reason is these are girls who had experienced extreme trauma. They were always on the lookout for the next threat, right? Class by class, I coached them. And as I finished up class, I would say, remember to keep an eye out for your best thing, because I'm going to ask you about it next week. And then I said to them, it could be small. It could be a great dessert, a new song, a funny joke. Just keep an eye out. Look for what your best thing is. And every week it got easier for them to share. And you can see the impact of what it had on them. Life satisfaction up 92% in 6 weeks. Okay. All right. So previous to our class, in their focus on survival, my girls were always looking at what was broken or what was missing. Okay. And there's a good chance with the way the world is right now that we're doing exactly the same thing. All right. But the power of appreciative inquiry, right? When we focus on what we have, what's right, what is good, amazing things can happen. When you appreciate the good appreciates. Keep an eye out for the good things, and you will be able to welcome more good things into your life. Okay. So how to leverage appreciative inquiry in your life? For you to use in your own family, maybe you change the question to, what was the best part of your day? Maybe add this in as a habit as part of your dinner or your drive home together. And if you're just doing this on your own, it's a really sweet thing to journal about this right before bed, okay? And as you do this, I invite you to watch for themes. Is there something that consistently lights you up? Pay attention to this, and this is why. So I've encouraged you to explore your expectations, which hopefully means that in the future, as you do this, you'll start doing less. So what to do with that extra time? All right, I invite you to spend it on self-care, because we need to remember that we need to drink as much as we pour. Taking care of ourselves is at the heart of resilience. What does that look like? Well, keep an eye on those themes from the best parts of your day and try to mindfully do more of that. And in the chat space here, I would definitely recommend for you to throw in some of your favorite self-care habits so that the group can learn from what you do. I'll tell you, one of mine is laying in the hammock in the backyard, reading with my 9-year-old. So just something about getting those feet up above the heart, it just really drops my blood pressure down. So that's my favorite one, but I would definitely encourage you to share what yours are as well. Okay, so another tool for you, and this is a mindfulness practice from the Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron, and she says, it's not life that causes suffering, it's our interpretation that causes so much distress. So rather than identifying with your emotions by saying, I am happy or I am sad, what about the possibility of just naming them? There is happiness, there is anger, there is excitement, there is grief. And then, like the clouds in the sky, realize that these emotions will come and go. This is a time of tremendous upheaval. It's so natural, so normal to experience strong feelings as a result. But just like the weather, emotions ebb and they flow. Let them flow through you while always turning toward the good, what fuels your gratitude and joy. Alrighty. So I just messed up my computer, sorry. There we go. Okay. I was going to do a meditation with you right now, but I'm afraid that I've talked too long. So I am going to make it up for you, make it up to you. I'll tell you how at the end. But I do invite you now. We're not going to do the full meditation, which is, sorry, I obviously tried to jam a little bit too much in. But I do invite you to sit and close your eyes again and just breathe into the belly and allow yourself to settle. And again, bring resilience, this state of being, to mind. And see if maybe things have shifted just a little. Maybe you feel a little bit more open. Maybe you see a different potential. You see the opportunity that you can step into. Another breath. And then as you're ready, open your eyes and recognize that even if you took a small step, super small step towards resilience, you made a shift. You made a shift. And that is powerful. So I invite you to share in the chat space what your feelings towards resilience are now, and if you see a little bit of difference. And we're not looking for anything magical here. We're always grounded in reality. But maybe you felt a little bit different, and you can kind of see things in a different light. Alrighty.
There's a quick question about what the fourth element of resilience, of this resilience starter kit was.
The fourth element, well,
Yes.
we did, oh man, you're going to have to make me go back to my cheat sheet, because you know I'm not going to be able to pull it off the top of the, so we talked about appreciative inquiry, and we talked about self-care, appreciating the good. You know what? I actually have it. I have it in my wrap-up. I don't need to be going back and forth. So sorry about that. Giving you kitty cat whiplash. All right, so it's coming up. It's coming up next. All right. So just in wrapping up, resilience isn't about doing. It's a state of being. Figuring out our why is emotionally grounding. Purpose is tied to intrinsic motivation, that wellspring of energy that gives us, you know, that forward momentum. Intrinsic motivation boosts resilience, and then purpose is found in the overlap of what you're good at, what you love to do, and what the world needs. Okay. And then here are the resilience boosters. Okay. Check in with expectations. Give yourself permission to be human. Make a practice of practicing self-care. Look for the best part of your day and let those emotions flow through you, and practicing mindfulness. And I am very happy to say that if you email me, and I'll give you my email at the end, I will send you a link. You know, it'll be a bigger version of the meditation that I didn't have time for today. So for you to listen to as much as you want. It's really, really good. I think you'll love it. And it's definitely tied to just recognizing that this is a crazy up in the air time, and it'll give you some tools to see ways to use that as transformation. So, and if you have any questions, or if you'd like to learn more about who we are, I'm going to give you our website, and I'd love to learn from you. And if you happen to know of any organizations that support at-risk youth, we'd love an introduction. Again, our program is free to these groups, and we'd love to have more teens experience these benefits. So, wishing you a lovely journey on your special life path. And here is our contact information. So Caroline, what questions maybe came in as I talked and talked and talked fast?
Well, I just had one thought, and that is around growth mindset, and something that Jude Trader-Wolf said about 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And I would just love to demonstrate it. I hope you see me.
Yeah.
So here we go. Instead of 1 step forward, 2 steps back, it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Oh, there we go. I know life is never linear, right?
Like, so always, my understanding is we're always moving forward.
Yeah.
What we do when we turn back is we just learn from what we've experienced, and then we go forward again. So it's actually not this way. we
Yeah.
keep going. And that's been really helpful for me as an embodied person to think about that. It's not like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
going backwards, but oh, I'm just gathering new learning so that I can continue. And then I was just wondering if we could have, I know that the dean is on the call and also the professor, if we could just unmute them, we might have to, so that they could say hello,
I would love that.
if that was
I would love
possible.
that.
We might have to stop the slide sharing for a moment. And I'm happy to send
Absolutely.
everybody the meditation too, if you send that to me. And then we just have to find them. Can you wave your hands so we can see you and maybe unmute you if the dean is on the call?
Let's see here.
Or can you scroll through? You're also the
Oh,
host.
there's Ayana. Yes.
So go ahead.
Professor
Yes, you
Kone
can
raised her
unmute
hand.
her.
Let's see here. I'll find her.
Oh, here.
You got her?
I think so. I've tried to unmute her. Yes. There we go. And let me spotlight you so people can see you.
Love it.
Hey.
Oh, there she is.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is an amazing journey for at least a portion of my students. And this is the second class I've actually done this with. I've even requested that same class again to try to bring it into the fall semester. So I am so grateful for discovering my purpose. It not only spoke to the students that took it, but they also took it to their friends for confrontations recently, for the loss of their family members, because our loss is so high in New York, especially for our community.
Yes.
And it also spoke to their family. They gave me a lot of feedback, you know, if they're quarantined inside the house with family, they're like, okay, you know this about you. You know more about you than you know about anybody else. Can you see that you're fine and the one you're actually arguing with isn't fine? So if you recognize what's going on with you, then you can, you know how to deal with someone else.
Beautiful.
So that's been huge for them.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for the work that you do. And
Oh,
thank you for working together.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've been so incredibly blessed. Thank you so much, Professor Kone, for showing up, and thank you for partnering with us.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm looking for other
I know. She's the most positive person ever. I mean, she is embodied positivity. I'll tell you what.
That's awesome. And is Dean Roll still on the call? Let me see.
I think I see her. I see that she's raised her hand.
Okay.
I've got her in the chat space on the
Do
right.
you want to unmute her?
Yeah,
Let me cancel the spotlight.
I've got her.
And let me just see if I can
Well,
find.
okay, it was a
There
wonderful.
she is.
Yay! I enjoyed it. It was wonderful. We thank Laura and her team for everything they have done for Medgar Evers. Our students have been blessed and benefited by it. And thanks to Professor Kone for picking up the mantle and making it happen. And, you know, especially no one could have told us that COVID-19 was on the way, but our students did get some relief, those that have participated. So we're hoping that we can do more and more. And thanks again for letting us be a part of this experience for our students.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for even, you know, looking to resilience as a way of helping your students. I actually have my nieces and nephews, and they're that age, and they're having a tough time. So we all have to bond together to help elevate our youth and one another. So this is very visionary on your part and your leadership. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you too. Thank you too. But it's because of partnerships. We couldn't have done it if Laura hadn't been patient with us. Very patient. So thanks again to Laura and her team.
Yeah. Wow. Great. And Laura, do you want to take us home? Anything that you want to finish with?
No, I'm so grateful. Thank you again to the JCC for this time. Thank you to the Whole Being Institute. Thank you to all of you who spent your time with us. Especially, there's a lot of churn right now. You know, I think there's a lot of need for this kind of work. So I'm grateful that you're investing in taking care of yourselves, because there's a ripple effect, right? I mean, you know, by boosting our own, and it's, as Professor Kone was saying, these students raised their own positivity and then they pushed it out to friends and family members. They tried to inspire fellow students who were struggling. So when we take care of ourselves, it's definitely putting the oxygen mask on first, because then we can help care for others in a more authentic way that's sustainable. Resilience is all about sustainability. So
Beautiful.
Yes,
Well,
thank you.
is there anything we can do to support your organization? I know you offer this for free, but
do.
is there anything that we can do to support your organization?
Well, I think, you know, I would greatly, for those of you who might have relationships with organizations that serve at-risk youth, if you could, you know, introduce us. You know, we are a 501c3. If you're looking to, you know, make a donation, we would gratefully appreciate that. And we also do, if you want to take the class yourself, we sell it. We sell the class, you know, it's online. It's so if this resonated with you, or if you have a young one who could benefit from it, you know, please reach out to me, and I would love to put you in touch with the class, because
Great.
I think this is the kind of work that, as you can tell, you know now that there are going to be cat memes. So
That's the warning.
you've been forewarned.
Right.
But it's this amazing content that I learned from the Whole Being Institute and Dr. Talben Shahar. So it's I think it's the kind of information that we all need. We all need to make our lives matter.
Beautiful. Could you throw up the slide to end us with, so that people know how to get in contact with you?
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, for staying on the call. Thank you to Medgar Evers and the teachers and professors and deans there. We're so grateful. And especially at this time, that there's something that is making a difference, and that maybe we can all get behind and support. It's something that we can do. And everyone, please take care of yourselves. Have a good weekend. We'll see you back on Monday. We have a wonderful course tonight on heart math. It's on resilience and coherence. If you are interested in that, please look that up. It's very inexpensive, $10, $15 or something like that, which is unheard of. They're donating their time to that. And then also this weekend, we're going to be doing a hand workshop, which was kind of fun and kind of nice. So thank you, everybody. Take good care of yourselves. I'm going to go ahead and end our call. If I can figure out how to do that. Zoom is so new for me, and still. And just go ahead and wave to Laura. Thank her. I'm not sure how to
Thank you.
unmute everybody these days. And take care. Bye now.